and we are the group 5 for the subject contemporary. For our report today is all about global divides, the North and the South. So we have 3 learning outcomes to achieve by the end of this topic. One is define the global South. So you need to know what is global South. Second one is differentiate the global South from the third world. You need to know kung ano nga ba ang pinagkaiba ng global South and third world. And the third one is analyze how a new conception of a global relation emerged from the experience of Latin American countries. The first world consisted of the US, Western Europe, and their allies. The second world was the so-called communist bloc, the Soviet Union, China, Cuba, and France. The remaining nations which aligned with their group were assigned to the third world. The third world has always had a blurred lines. Who is Alfred Sauvy? Alfred Sauvy, he was a demographer, anthropologist, and historian of the French economy. He was born in October 31, 1898 and died October 30, 1990. Third world. This term is used to describe more serious challenges faced by people economically less developed countries. These problems often relate to basic needs such as access to clean water, adequate nutrition, healthcare, education. It is a group of non-alliance countries to the first and second world, which refused capitalism and communism during the Cold War. Divides global North and global South. Global North, previously first world countries. Global South, previously third world countries.
Good day everyone, I'm Christian Garcia, and today I will be discussing the emergence of the global North and the global South. While the global North implies the developed economies, the global South naman implies the underdeveloped economies. For broad indicators distinguish global North economies from global South economies. These include politics, technology, weight, and demography. Global North includes Australia, Canada, Japan, New Zealand, South Korea, and United States, Europe, Russia. The global South is made up Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean, Pacific Islands, and Asia including Israel, Japan, and South Korea. In general comparison between global North versus global South, it is important to note that there is no clear-cut distinction between these two groups. There are many countries that fall somewhere in between these two groups. However, some general comparison can be made. For example, states that are generally seen as part of the global North tend to have higher level of education, better healthcare system, higher life expectancies, lower infant mortality rates, higher levels of gender equality, etc. than those of the global South. The global South is generally understood to refer to less economically developed countries. It is a broad term that comprises a variety of states with diverse level of economic, cultural, and political influence in the internal order. What are the struggles in the global South made global? The struggles in global South, such as poverty, political instability, and lack of infrastructure, have been made global due to the emergence of the concept of the global South and the global North. The global South broadly comprises countries in the region of the Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean, Asia, without Israel, Japan, South Korea, and Oceania. without Australia and New Zealand, according to the United States Nation Conference on Trade and Development (UNCTD). How do we know if a country is developed or developing? A country is considered developed if it has a higher per capita income and GDP as compared to developing countries. The United Nations classify countries as either developed economies, economies in transition, or developing economies based on their basic economic country conditions. Why many countries in the world not developing? Pag-i-comment na lang sa baba yung sagot.
Dependency theory and the Latin American experience. Dependency theory is the condition in which the development of the nation-state of the South contribution to a decline in their independence to an increase in economic development of the countries. It also focuses on how poor countries have been drenched by richer nations. It argues that in world of finite resources, we cannot understand why rich nations are rich without realizing that those riches came out with the expenses of the country being poor. Movements of independence from Spain and Portugal in the early 18th century, colonized by the Spaniards and Portuguese from the late 15th through the 18th century. After World War II, Latin American countries are still experiencing underdevelopment. Serve this interest of the wealthier countries, manual labor and export of cheap raw materials. So the main reasons for Latin American experience underdevelopment was excessive reliance, primary commodities, and agricultural products and foods. So why are so many countries are not developing? Because these countries are not pursuing the right economic policies of their government or authoritarian and corrupt. So we have two main sub-theories. First, North American neo-Marxist approach, tendency to capitalist of lack of development. Dependency theory. The overall concept of the dependency theory is that the rich countries in the core exploit the poor countries in the periphery. When we say core countries, these are the nations that exploit peripheral countries with the cheap labor and raw materials. Within core countries, the interest of a relatively small class of economically powerful people are the most important thing. And when we say periphery, these are the nations that are poor. They are generally must export their resources, materials, and labor to survive there economically. Poor countries export primary commodities to the rich countries, who in turn converts them higher value, more expensive products which they sell back to the poor countries. Semi-periphery, these are the nations that hold some characteristics of core countries and some characteristics of peripheral countries. While these countries often sell cheap labor and resources to core countries, they are generally have some economic control over the peripheral countries. Development in the Global South must begin by drawing most of a country's financial resources for development from within rather than becoming dependent on foreign financial markets.